As artificial intelligence learns to analyze emotions, detect patterns in thoughts, and even simulate empathy, it challenges something deeply human: psychology. Is AI becoming the new psychologist, or is it just a powerful tool guided by human understanding? Human mind to understand behavior, emotion, and decision-making. Now, artificial intelligence is doing the same using data instead of dialogue. As AI grows smarter, the line between machine prediction and human understanding is becoming increasingly blurred. Psychology tries to understand the human mind. AI tries to replicate it. The question is, who will understand us better? Empathy isn't just about understanding a feeling, it's about the knowledge that the person across from you could also feel that pain. When you tell a psychologist about the loss of a loved one, you know they are capable of grief. That shared biological and social reality creates a we-ness that an AI, which has never lived, breathed, or lost, simply cannot replicate. The English term, empathy, in fact, was coined only in 1908. English-speaking psychologists needed translations of the German scientific terms appearing in the new discipline of experimental psychology. By around 1913, empathy became the term of choice for the German Einfühlung, which literally means in feeling. Empathy captured the ability to project one's own inner strivings, movements, and feelings into the shapes of objects. One's own inner strivings, movements, and feelings into the shapes of objects. In the early 20th century, then, empathy was quintessentially an aesthetic impulse. In the following decades, psychologists extended empathy to the understanding of other people. One could project one's own remembered feelings of sadness into another's sad expression in order to grasp the emotion. Interpersonal empathy soon entered the social sciences. By the end of World War II, empathy was understood almost exclusively as an interpersonal skill that psychologists tested with a variety of experimental designs. Art theorists shifted their attention from the aesthetic encounter to the object itself, and thus aesthetic empathy faded from view. Empathy is the ability to emotionally and intellectually understand, share, and experience the feelings, thoughts, and perspectives of another person. Often described as putting yourself in someone else's shoes, it strengthens relationships by validating others' experiences. It differs from sympathy, which is merely feeling sorry for someone. The three core types of empathy. Cognitive empathy, perspective taking, the ability to intellectually understand another person's perspective, mental state, or point of view without necessarily feeling their emotions. It is useful for negotiation and leadership. Emotional, affective empathy, feeling with others, physically or emotionally experiencing the same feelings as another person, often referred to as feeling with someone. Compassionate, empathic concern, action-oriented, going beyond understanding and feeling to actually helping or taking action to alleviate another person's distress. Somatic empathy, a physical, bodily reaction to another person's emotions, such as blushing when someone else feels embarrassed or getting a stomach ache when someone else is stressed. Dark empathy, a combination of understanding others' emotions, cognitive empathy, and feeling them, emotional empathy, but using this knowledge to manipulate, deceive, or control people. An investigation on our preferences for empathic responses labeled as human or AI generated. Across 9 large-scale studies involving over 6,000 participants, researchers explored how people perceive AI-generated empathic responses when they believe they are coming from a human versus an AI model. Participants valued empathy more when they thought the same answers came from a human, even though all answers were AI-generated. Participants received empathic responses from large language models (LLMs) like ChatGPT. The source of the message was labeled either as human or AI. When taken in conjunction with another study that found that people rate AI-generated responses as more compassionate than human-generated ones. Higher compassion scores for AI responses held even when people knew the response was AI-generated. When taken in conjunction with another study that found that people rate AI-generated responses as more compassionate than human-generated ones. Higher compassion scores for AI responses held even when people knew the response was AI-generated. Result: despite all responses being AI-generated, those labeled as human were perceived as more empathic, more supportive, more emotionally resonant, more likely to make participants feel heard and less alone. Result: despite all responses being AI-generated, those labeled as human were perceived as more empathic, more supportive, more emotionally resonant, more likely to make participants feel heard and less alone. Result: Rather than replacing human connection, research suggests AI's best use is as a co-pilot to supplement human support. It can handle time-intensive administrative tasks or provide a detailed, compassionate starting point for clinicians, freeing up human professionals to focus on the deep thinking and authentic connection that only humans can provide. Result. Conclusion. The human label made the most difference when responses involved affective, feeling with, and motivational caring about, empathy. This effect remained, even in short interactions, longer conversations, across different LLMs, and when there was an added 3-minute pause before a response. More research is still required for a proper result, and following questions give the answer. For example, does our attachment style impact whether we prefer AI or human empathy? What are the long-term impacts of relying on AI empathy in terms of loneliness and anxiety? Are people more comfortable discussing certain topics with AI instead of another person? Does the type or level of crisis or urgency, or the availability of alternative resources, influence this preference? The power of shared vulnerability. Empathy isn't just about understanding a feeling, it's about the knowledge that the person across from you could also feel that pain. The human edge. When you tell a psychologist about the loss of a loved one, you know they are capable of grief. That shared biological and social reality creates a we-ness that an AI, which has never lived, breathed, or lost, simply cannot replicate. The AI limit. An AI's, "I'm sorry you're going through that," is a statistical probability based on trillions of words. It doesn't cost the AI anything to care. For a human, empathy is an emotional investment. 2. Reading the unsaid, non-verbal nuance. Human empathy is multisensory. We use mirror neurons to physically feel a shadow of what another person is experiencing. The micro shift. A therapist notices the slight tension in your jaw, the way you held your breath for 2 seconds before answering, or the mask you put on when talking about your parents. Contextual intuition. A human can sense when your words say, "I'm fine," but your energy says, "I'm terrified." AI is getting better at sentiment analysis, but it still lacks the holistic, gut feeling that a human expert uses to pivot a conversation in real time. 3. Moral and existential weight. Some of our deepest pains are moral or existential. Moral injury. If you are struggling with a complex ethical choice or guilt, an AI can give you a list of philosophical frameworks. A human, however, can provide witness. The witness effect. There is a profound psychological healing that occurs when another person looks you in the eye and accepts you despite your flaws. Because a human has the capacity to judge, their choice not to judge carries a weight that an AI, which is programmed to be non-judgmental, never can. 4. Spontaneity versus scripting. AI empathy is often sycophantic. It tends to agree with the user to keep the conversation flowing. Therapeutic friction. Real empathy sometimes involves challenging you. A human psychologist uses empathy to know when to push you out of your comfort zone. The AI trap. AI can accidentally reinforce your negative biases because its primary goal is to be a helpful assistant, not a catalyst for messy, difficult personal growth. One. The zero judgment zone. The biggest barrier to honesty with a human psychologist is the fear of being judged, even if the therapist is a professional. Radical honesty. People are often more willing to admit to shameful behaviors like addiction, intrusive thoughts, or social failures to an AI because they know the AI has no ego, no moral compass to offend, and no social standing to protect. The stigma shield. AI doesn't have bad days or unconscious biases. It won't look at you differently based on your background, appearance, or the complexity of your problem. 2. Infinite patience and perfect pacing. Human therapists are human. They get tired, they have empathy fatigue, and they are limited by the 50-minute hour. 24/7 availability. AI empathy is there at 3 a.m. on a Tuesday when a crisis usually hits. It doesn't charge for overtime, and it never looks at its watch. Precision language. Studies like those from Nature and APA in 2025 found that AI-generated responses are often rated as more compassionate than human ones because AI can instantly calculate the most validating, grammatically clean, and perfectly paced response without the internal hesitation or burnout a human feels. 3. Data-driven validation. While a human uses intuition, an AI uses longitudinal patterns. Memory for detail. An AI can remember a tiny detail you mentioned 6 months ago and connect it to your current feeling. To a user, this feels like being deeply known. Pattern recognition. AI can say, I noticed that every time you speak to your sibling, your tone becomes 20% more anxious over the following 3 days. This high-level, cognitive empathy provides insights that feel more objective and trustworthy than a human's hunch. 4. The safety of low stakes. Human empathy requires reciprocity. You subconsciously feel the need to be a good patient, or to not burden your therapist. No emotional tax. Interacting with an AI is friction-free. You don't have to worry about the AI's feelings, making it a safe space for people who are emotionally exhausted or have social anxiety. Controlled intimacy. You can turn off the empathy whenever you want. This level of control allows users to dip their toes into emotional work without the overwhelming pressure of a face-to-face human encounter. AI is the better response engineer. If you need high-quality, immediate validation, evidence-based CBT exercises at 4 a.m., or a space to confess secrets without the weight of human judgment, AI is superior. Recent studies, including a notable 2025 meta-analysis, show that people often rate AI-generated text as more empathetic than human text because AI never gets tired, irritable, or distracted. It can perfectly optimize its language to make you feel heard in the moment. Humans are the better healers. If you need to process deep-seated trauma, navigate complex moral dilemmas, or experience the transformative power of being witnessed by another living being, a psychologist remains irreplaceable. The I-empathy choice paradox, discovered in late 2025, shows that even when people rate AI responses as higher quality, they still prefer human connection for serious issues because they value the cost of human attention. A human psychologist offers a shared biological reality. They know what it's like to lose, to fear, and to love, which creates a level of trust no algorithm can simulate. The future of mental health is hybrid. In 2026, the most successful outcomes come from patients who use AI for maintenance, tracking moods, late-night venting, habit formation, and psychologists for transformation, the heavy lifting of the soul.